governs the realms of pleasure. That's what Asmodeus is in charge of. He lusts for power, he lusts for possession, and he lusts for people.
Of sights and sounds determined to distort reality. It shows us war, sickness, unrest. And yet, here you are, drawing breath, bones molded by the hands of the Creator, a heart of emotions burning for truth. Awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light.
Asmodeus is actually referred to in the book of Tobit. Now, for those that maybe don't know, okay, as we covered many times, there's spirits, there's powers, there's principalities. These are the three demonic forces that we fight against. But again, principalities, powers, spirits. Spirits are demonic spirits or unclean spirits. Powers are strongholds. We fight against strongholds. And principalities are the princes of hell. There's 7 princes of hell. They carry the highest ranking in the demonic realm. They command legions and hundreds and thousands of demonic spirits at their disposal. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus talks about the gates of hell. There's multiple gates in hell, and these princes guard those gates. They have thrones in the demonic kingdom that they sit on, and they rule over different dominions and geographic territories of the world. That's what a principality does. A principality does not need a physical vessel to operate, but it does operate in many people today. It can operate in the atmosphere. It can operate in what's referred to as the second heaven. The second heaven is where the planets and the stars reside. So you have the first heaven, which is the birds and where they fly. And then you have above that, the second heaven, you have what would be called outer space. And then you have the third heaven, which is where God himself is. So these principalities and spirits, they operate in the second heaven. They operate in the earth, below the earth, which is hell, and then they operate in the waters, which is the marine kingdom. So these spirits and principalities are operating all around us. And the 7 princes are connected to the 7 deadly sins. Lust is one of them. That's what we're covering tonight. Asmodeus is a principality. He was actually a seraphim in heaven. So he was one of the highest angels that you could be in heaven, which is why he carries a high ranking in the demonic realm. That's why he commands thousands of other bad spirits. And they do his work for him. Incubus and succubus do the work of Asmodeus. For those that don't know, incubus and succubus are referred to as spiritual spouses. They become married to you in the spiritual realm, and they take ownership over you. So if you sleep with somebody and you're fornicating with that person, you're not only creating a soul tie and potentially getting a bad spirit in you that they may have, but then you'll get a spiritual spouse that will marry you in the spiritual realm and do things to you in the middle of the night. And they will not leave until you divorce them. You have to break off that legal right that has allowed them to come in. Usually it's connected to lust. That's how they come in. You lust after somebody, you fornicate with them. That's the altar that you now have come in covenant with a demonic spirit in the spiritual realm. And now you're married to a spiritual spouse. It's deep. This is deep. This is going to wake up a lot of people tonight. I know you think you slept with that person just one time, but now you're married to them in the spiritual realm. You're married to a bad spirit that you wanted no part to be with. Asmodeus was in love with Sarah. He actually obsessed about her. So he unalived any person that she tried to be with. It's deep. Like this is what these spiritual spouses will try to do in the realm in the demonic realm today. It can get to this severity, but the way you typically will see it today is that these spiritual spouses or the spirit of Asmodeus, every time you'll try to get into a relationship with somebody, it'll ruin it. It'll never work out. But she desires to have a husband, but this spirit will not stop tormenting her. So the Lord now sends the archangel Raphael to come and help them with their situation. Here's an important part: and to bind the Asmodeus evil spirit. So the Lord releases the angel of the Lord to bind up this spirit. It literally says that word for word, to bind Asmodeus, the evil spirit. Like we covered before, Asmodeus was a fallen seraphim. He was a hierarchy in heaven, and he's a principality. So he sits on one of the thrones of hell, and he commands thousands of spirits. He governs the realms of pleasure. That's what Asmodeus is in charge of. He governs the realms of pleasure. He controls legions of demons in hell. He represents lust and sexual sin related to adultery. He lusts for power, he lusts for possession, and he lusts for people. The three P's: power, possession, people. That's what Asmodeus is after. For those just coming in, Asmodeus was a demon who fell in love and became obsessed with Sarah and unalived 7 of her husbands on the consummation night of their wedding. He actually took pleasure in taking Sarah's happiness by unaliving her husbands. And that's what this spirit will do, is it'll take your happiness. The objective of this spirit, number 1, to break up marriages and relationships. It wants to destroy covenants. Another objective is to control your mind with lust. It wants to control your mind at all times with lustful thoughts. It wants to tempt you into infidelity and adultery. And it wants you to focus your entire life on possessions. You can lust after things of the world. Lust is not just a sexual thing, it's also, you can lust after power. You can lust after position. You can lust after money. You can lust after a big fancy house. You can lust after the most expensive car. Entry points for Asmodeus: pornography. The spirit can come in through watching stuff you're not supposed to be watching. You'd think it might be harmless to just be watching this stuff, but you're actually allowing an evil spirit to come through the screen and then come into you. It can come in through addiction. The spirit of lust can come in through addiction. It can come in through jealousy. As we read about, this spirit was very jealous. It was very covetous. It actually claimed ownership of Sarah like it was a possession to him. So if you find yourself like extremely jealous of somebody, and you're actually like you even come like almost overprotective of that person because secretly you're lusting after them and you really want to be with them, that's this Asmodeus spirit. When you're jealous of somebody, that means you'll actually go out of your way to create harm for that person. It can come in through envy, like I said, envy, jealousy, covetous. It can come in through social media. Social media these days, I'll tell you, is very demonic. I have to filter stuff that's on my social media because the enemy purposely almost wants you to see this stuff sometimes. And it can start with a simple look, and then if you entertain that, then it turns into a spiral downhill pattern where now you got to look at something else, and next thing you know, now you're fornicating. I don't think I can really get in the depth of saying it on here, but I think you know where I'm going. Once you open that door, it's gonna just be a spiral downhill. It's gonna end very bad. You got to take that thought captive right away. You see something on social media, another platform, a girl that's maybe not wearing very much or a guy that's not wearing very much, you need to instantly take that thought captive. If you're struggling with this, you may not even want to be on social media for a while. There's been times in my life where I've had to fast from social media. I've had to delete my Facebook for like 6 months. The powers that this spirit operates in, the first is it'll cause people to actually lose their mind. It'll actually cause a person to lose their mind and want to hurt themselves. The spirit has the power to break a person's will and impose its own will. So you might have a will to not want to do it, but it'll impose its own will to make you do it. You'll be like, I don't really want to do that, but then you'll find yourself doing it anyway. You might even feel like this how can I put it into words? It can even feel like this wave that comes upon you out of nowhere. And now like you have to do something about it. Like it hits you out of nowhere. That's what this spirit will do. You won't even be thinking about watching pornography, and then out of nowhere you could be just like in the middle of something and just feel this thing like come over you, and like you just can't control it. Like next thing you know, you're going and looking at this stuff and touching yourself and doing all this stuff, and you're like, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this, because that spirit is operating in you and it's now opposed its will over your own. For one, the spirit of lust is that it's that dirty, like icky, like I don't want to really talk about that. It's that thing that people want to just tuck under the rug and pretend it's not there, but it keeps festering back up. You got to pluck it out and expose this thing to get freedom from it. The spirit will actually make people infertile too. It'll contaminate your womb for a woman, or for a man, you won't be able to conceive a child. It'll basically attack your sperm. So you'll become an infertile man. So you could be with a woman that has no womb issue whatsoever, but yet you're not able to get her pregnant because the spirit has now made you infertile. It doesn't want you to produce children. Book about what, Maria? I have one book out. There will be a book about this, but it's not out yet. I have this book right now. This one's on Amazon right now. But this book of spirits will be out later this year. Again, something we covered, the powers of Asmodeus. Yeah, amen, brother. I'll definitely sign your book when you come here next week, brother. It'll twist a person's sexual desires. So you might have what I would call as a normal desire for intimacy, but then it'll twist that. So next thing you'll have a man with a man, a woman with a woman. You get where I'm going with this. It'll pervert a natural thing that's in us for marriage, and it'll completely turn that and pervert it around for something demonic. Because again, God gave us a natural desire to be intimate, but there's a certain design that God has laid out for it. It's meant for marriage and marriage only, because it was meant to bring the husband and wife closer together. There was supposed to be something sacred that has become unsacred today. Now you have too many people that are like, well, I want to try it before I buy it. I want to test drive the car before. I don't know if I want to lease this model or if I want to own this model. And this is the foolishness that's going around today. This is what the enemy is doing. The last power that Asmodeus possesses is he can shape shift and he can take on any form. So he's actually one of the demonic spirits that can shape shift into other things. This is a very powerful demonic spirit. And that's why you see so many people today that are in bondage to this spirit. I think one of the main reasons is that these images are all over the place. You have to guard your eyes, guard your ears. Also, it's one that's not really talked about a lot. People don't like to talk about this. It's a dirty sin. Lust is it's like that yuck. Ew. I don't want to talk about that. So characteristics of Asmodeus. What does Asmodeus look like? The first is he's overly protective and he's extremely jealous. The spirit will be overly protective and extremely jealous. That's how you can identify this spirit. The first thing. The second characteristic of Asmodeus is it lives in the moment and it's driven by impulse. It's very impulsive. It's one of these people that's like YOLO, you only live once kind of motto, doing whatever it wants when it wants, living in the moment, living in the now, never preparing for tomorrow, never preparing for the future. It's one of them now moment people, and that's how they live their life. Another characteristic of Asmodeus is it's constantly falling away of relationships and a history of broken marriages. The spirit likes to break covenants. So you'll find that this person has probably been married multiple times and it never worked out. Number four, the fourth characteristic of Asmodeus, it's very good at reading people and it uses their charm to manipulate situations to their advantage. The spirit can read people very well and then manipulate that person by using their looks. Because again, its number one tactic is lust. It'll get you to lust after them and then use that to their advantage. And they're able to read the people that are lusting after them. Number five, it has a very cold demeanor. It does not like to talk about its feelings. The person that is oppressed or possessed with this spirit will be very cold to people and it will not like to open up about what's going on inside of them. Number six, it enjoys the finest things in life and never willing to settle for anything less. It's what you would call today a modern day gold digger. It only wants Gucci, Prada, whatever other designer things you want to list. And it's not willing to settle for nothing. If it's not that high end thing, they don't even want it. They got to drive a Mercedes and they're not driving nothing else. They're not going to drive a Buick. They're not going to drive a truck. It's got to be the best of the best. And they're driven and motivated by things of the world. I think we can see these people very clear in the world. They're all over the place. And you can see how heavy this spirit is. People think their status is based on what they have, the size of the house they live in, the car they drive, and the amount of money they make a year. The world tells you what category you fall in based on these things. But God doesn't care about none of that. He doesn't care what kind of car you drive. He doesn't care about what kind of house you live in. He don't care about what's in your bank account. See, here's the crazy thing. We call people great based off the things of the world that they have. We call a person great by the amount of possessions that they own. But God calls people great that have his word in their heart. The people that God calls great and mighty are the ones that have the word of God scribed on their heart and they live it. That's who's great to God. The spirit would have you focus on everything of this world and the things in it. But guess what? When you pass this life, it's going to be passed down to someone in your family. And let's be honest, they're probably not going to be very smart with it. So there's some people that are like, man, I'm basically busting my butt to set my family in position, but if they don't ever change their mindset, then they won't have that money for very long. Number seven, Asmodeus, back on Asmodeus. It lures people into lust, anger, and rebellion. That's what this spirit likes to do. lure you into lust, anger, and rebellion. As we know, pretty much every demonic spirit operates in rebellion. Narcissism is that's a Jezebel spirit. That's a different spirit. Number 8, and here's a big one. It can corrupt even the purest hearts. Asmodeus can corrupt even the purest heart. This is why it's so important you guard your eye gate and ear gates, because it can corrupt the purest hearts. I've seen the most faithful, dedicated Christians, the most Jesus like people in the flesh, get corrupted. Walk 10, 15 years with the Lord, growing and growing and growing, and open up a door and get a bad spirit and go way left. And then actually persecute Christians. Do what Saul used to do before he was converted into Paul. Unaliving Christians. See, too many people are doing that today, but they're not doing that physically. They're doing that by coming against their name, their reputation. They're unaliving other Christians by gossiping and slandering them. They'll unalive the way that people look at you. You could be a great man of God. You could be a great woman of God, and they'll go around and they'll say some really evil things about you. Number 9, Asmodeus. It thrives on social settings and draws energy from being around others. So people with this spirit will actually draw energy from another person from being in a large group setting. It wants to be the life of the party. It'll actually seek out places that have a lot of people and draw the energy from the people around them and then seek to put all the attention on them. Like I said, they don't want me talking about this stuff. Every time I come on here and expose this stuff, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that starts happening, but God will prevail. Number 10, it feeds on the jealousy of others. We know that this spirit is a very jealous spirit, and it feeds off and gets energy off of the jealousy of others. That's what motivates this spirit, jealousy. Number 11, it's extremely sensitive to criticism from others. This will actually hit many different spirit categories. Many demonic spirits are really sensitive to criticism. They don't like positive criticism whatsoever. And the last one, it manipulates and dominates to maintain power in your life. Almost every demonic spirit demands power. That's what it seeks, power. The last part of this teaching, signs you're oppressed by the Asmodeus spirit. First sign of oppression, you get oppression in dreams. You get oppression in dreams. You keep having reoccurring nightmares of sexual encounters. You keep having a reoccurring dream of SA stuff happening to you in your dream. That's oppression from the spirit of Asmodeus. You feel like you're being touched in the middle of your sleep, or you're waking up with marks on your body. As we covered before, Asmodeus will enlist incubus and succubus, also one known as Lilith. Somebody put Lilith is known as a spiritual spouse. So these spiritual spouses will be married to you in the spiritual realm, and they'll actually touch you in the middle of the night. They claim possession and ownership over you in the spiritual realm. That's why another teaching that I'll be doing here very soon is on soul ties. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about soul ties. It's important that if you have any soul ties that they're broken. And there's multiple different types of soul ties. It's not just an intimate soul tie. You can have other friendship type of soul ties too, like Jonathan and David had. They had a covenant, they had a soul tie. Number 3, you struggle with uncontrollable lust. You have sexual addiction, you have a substance abuse addiction, and you have experienced persistent and uncontrollable thoughts or actions driven by lustful desires that disrupt your spiritual growth. So uncontrollable lust is when you feel like you can't control it. You feel like you find yourself doing this thing and you just can't break free from it. And you stay stuck in this repetitive cycle of doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. That is connected to the spirit. Uncontrollable lust. Number 4 is sexual perversion, involvement or temptation toward perverse or unnatural intimate practices. I don't think I need to elaborate too much in detail because I don't think this platform will let me, but I think you know what I'm talking about here. If you like doing stuff sexually or intimately that is not normal, that's called a sexual perversion. If you like watching specific stuff that is just not normal, that's in the perversion family. If you like to dress up like a woman, if you like to wear women's clothing, that's all perversion. Everything that's outside of the normal design of what God designed is considered sexual perversion. I mean, we got people today that identify as a cat. So, I mean, there's a lot of perversion going on. Here's another big one. You have a distortion between love and lust. You're not able to tell the difference between love and lust. In fact, you probably don't even really know what love is because all you think about is lust. Love is about an emotional connection and wanting the best for somebody, while lust is solely about physical attraction and sexual desire. A person oppressed by the spirit will not be able, they don't know the difference between love and lust because all they ever know is lust. All they ever know is the physical. If you experience extreme anxiety and paranoia, that can be linked to the Asmodeus spirit. Number 7, like we covered, you have a history of broken relationships or marriage. There's a couple different spirits that come after the covenant of marriage. There's another spirit that we're going to cover as well in the future that is also connected to broken relationships. It's called the orphan spirit, what's also known as the vagabond spirit. Somebody that is oppressed by an orphan spirit or the spirit of vagabond, they will feel like they never belong anywhere. They'll jump from relationship to relationship, from job to job, from church to church. They'll never find stability anywhere, and they'll just keep going about from place to place and always be saying, I don't know where I belong. I don't know where I fit in. That's an orphan spirit. Yeah, a person can have multiple spirits, absolutely. Some people can have hundreds and thousands of these things in them. But typically a person that has bad spirits, there's usually what will be referred to as a strong man. The more powerful spirit that's in charge of that person's body. So for example, Asmodeus would be the strong man, would be the one that is orchestrating other spirits that might be in the person that are less powerful. Because as we covered earlier, for those that may have missed it, Asmodeus controls legions. So if you look up legion by definition, it means thousands. Okay. And this is actually scriptural because when you read in the book of Matthew and the book of Luke, so it's in two places in the New Testament in the Gospels where Jesus encountered a man when he got off the boat with the disciples that was living in the caves and was oppressed by what he said. He asked, "What is your name?" And he said, "I am Legion, for I am many." And it says, I think it's in the KJV, in the King James version, that 2,000 spirits came out of that one man. 2,000. And Jesus casted the spirits into the pigs because the spirit said, "Don't cast us into the abyss, show mercy on us." So Jesus showed mercy to even these demonic spirits and he cast them into the pigs. And then the pigs ran off of the cliff and drowned in the ocean, which is why you get the term today, the marine kingdom, because the spirits didn't unalive, just the flesh of the pigs did. I want you guys to catch this because this is deep. The spirits did not unalive, the flesh of the pigs did. That's why there's some of these spirits that are still lurking around in the waters today. Because guess what? Why would they lurk in the water? Well, the world is made of 70% water. The majority of the world is water and not land. And that's why you got people that are like, "Ooh, the mermaids, the mermaids, the mermaids." There's people obsessed with the mermaids. You're obsessed with the marine kingdom. You're obsessed with demonic spirits. Some of them live in the water, yes. Number 8, I think this is the last one. Yeah, it's the last one. They're jealous or envious of someone in a romantic or marriage situation. Just like we read in the book of Tobit, Asmodeus unalived Sarah's husband, 7 of them. So somebody with this spirit will be very jealous of, they might be in love with you, but you're married to somebody else, or you're in a relationship with somebody else, but yet that person is obsessing over you. They're very jealous of you. They're very overprotective of you, and they actually are doing everything they can to break up your marriage or your relationship you're in. This person will do everything it can to get you away from that person so you will get with them.